Australia's Foreign Minister says China is subjecting one of its citizens to daily interrogations, including whilst being shackled. Pro-democracy writer Yang Hengjun has been detained in China since January. He's been accused of spying. Marise Payne, the Australian Foreign Minister, says Yang is being held in unacceptable conditions and is urging Beijing to release him. More on this with Patrick Poon joining us from Hong Kong, Amnesty International's China researcher. Thanks for your time, Patrick. I don't think this is a case or a story that many people will necessarily have heard about. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Yang was doing that led to charges of espionage?
It's very concerning, as the foreign minister mentioned, because for spying, espionage, that actually can mean like very serious punishment if convicted, like even up to life imprisonment, for example. So I think like the problem is like how he is treated is quite typical of dissidents in China. And they have no access to lawyers and their family, and it makes it like make them very vulnerable to high risk of torture and other ill treatment. And then now also, as already like heard from this case, ill treatment has already happened. So I think it is something what concerns us most is how we can push China more to allow him at least to have meetings with his lawyers.
And so that leads to the question, how can you do that, given be dealing anyone excuse me, dealing with the government of China would be quite fraught, I would think.
I think like the only way that would be to have more international pressure. Now I see Australia has been raising concern about the case, but if we have more voices like from other countries and also at the United Nations, it can help the case to have a high profile, and China has no choice but to respond to it. Of course, like on surface, they would always like a response by saying they have been using very tactful, lawful, and very legal means to deal with the case. But actually, like when we see how international pressure can help to put more pressure on China to improve the situation of detainees. So I think that is something that we need to do to push more on China's government.
Patrick, what was Mr. Yang doing? What was he in his writing? Was he directly criticising the Chinese government?
I think like what I've seen like from his writings in the past few years, mainly like on like from a very academic writer's point of view, giving comments on the Chinese government's policies and human rights violations. So strictly speaking, we don't see anything like problematic, but for Chinese government, of course, they see any criticism can be considered subverting the government. And now even like for saying like accusing him of espionage. But for espionage cases, they always just hold a trial, secret trial, and there's no way to find out what would be the actual evidence put against him. So I think the worrying part is how the so-called trial will happen, or if it will happen at all, how it would be conducted, and whether his family members would be allowed to sit in the trial, how the trial would be manner. So something like is a big concern on how he would be tried. But unfortunately, from previous experience in other cases, it's very likely that he won't be given a fair trial.
Right. Patrick Poon from Amnesty International, thank you for your time. Do appreciate it.